Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 in making the Decree doll, where I will show you how I created her face and hair. If you haven't already, please make sure to check out part 1, and if you're interested in how I achieved this step, please stay tuned. Alright, let's get started. I'll be using black yarn for the hair, and of course you can use whatever color you'd like. I have pink, white, and black embroidery thread. This thread is also used to make friendship bracelets if you're familiar with those. I also have some embroidery needles to stitch this all together. Before I begin stitching, I'm going to draw the face on as a guide. Starting with the eyes, I pin at the center point of where the eyes will begin. From the center point, I measure 1 inch to the right and left and pin at those points. I decided I wanted them a bit longer, so I moved the pin over on both sides about 1/4 of an inch. I grab a pencil and starting at the center point, I begin to draw a curve going up, then I slant the curve going down under towards the other pin. I do the same for the other side, then remove all 3 pins. To finish up the eyes, I add a few lashes at both ends of the undercurve, and as you can see, her eyes will appear closed, but they're the cute, happy closed eyes because that's the look I was going for, and I just thought that was super cute. Moving on to the lips, I just simply draw an appropriate sized heart shape towards the center point at the bottom where I thought it looked good. Off camera, I went ahead and completed one eye, and now I'll show you how I did it. I thread the needle about an arm's length with the black thread. I pull all the way through, folding over about 5 inches of the loose thread and tie the knot at the other end. Just like the first eye, I begin threading through the back of the head. I pull through about 1 centimeter from the beginning point of the eye. I backstitch at the beginning point of the eye and push through 1 centimeter over on the other side of the first stitch. Again, I backstitch at the end of the last stitch, pushing through 1 centimeter over the other side. I repeat this step, making sure to follow the tracing as my guide. Now, if you're familiar with embroidery, this is referred to one of the ways of backstitching. If I confused you at any point, there are tons of tutorials here on YouTube you can find to help show you how to do this particular stitch. To complete that curve, I backstitch to close the last gap, moving directly into the eyelashes. Like before, I begin to stitch 1 centimeter from the beginning point and pull through. Then I backstitch at the beginning point and pull through 1 centimeter on the other side. I repeat this step till I get to the end of the eyelash. I finish the end of the eyelash with another back stitch to close the gap and move on to the last eyelash, repeating those same steps. To finish off the eye, I close the gap with the last back stitch and pull through to the back of the head. Here's the complete eye. Now I cut and secure the thread with a knot. For the lips, I go over the tracing with my pencil. Then I grab my pink thread and thread the needle the same way I did for the eyes. Again, I start by pushing through the back of the head to the tracing of the lips. I stitch along the tracing of the lips using the back stitch method, the same as I did for the eyes. Once I finish stitching around the lips, I begin to fill the inside of the lips using the back stitch method again. At this point, I'm just stitching in any direction I need to fill up the space. Here's what it looks like so far, and I'll continue to stitch until the space is filled. Here's what that looks like after it's complete. The stitches are definitely not perfect, but it's okay with me as long as the space is covered enough. So once that's done, I pull the thread to the back of the head, and then I cut and secure the thread with a knot. And here's her face. Now moving on to the hair, I take and pin the center point at the top of the front of the head. Then I pin at both sides of the head behind the ending of the eyes. Lastly, I pin at the center point at the bottom behind the head. The purpose of these pins are to serve as a guideline for the circumference of the hairline. I have my embroidery needle and thread prepared, and I start stitching at the bottom pin, again using the back stitching method. After I pull through, I remove that pin. I continue to stitch around the circumference of the head using the pins as a guide. When I get to the end, I circle around again and continue to stitch, circling until I spiral to the end at the center of the head. Here's what that looks like after it's complete. For the first couple rows, I make each stitch about 1/4 of an inch wide. Each row after, I make them about 1 centimeter wide until I get to the end. There's about 1/4 of an inch space between each row. I attached a few strands of hair to make sure the curls worked for the look I was going for. And now I'll show you how I prepared the hair. I grabbed my yarn and small wooden rods. These are actually chopsticks we had in the drawer, but you can find small rods like this at your local crafting or home improvement store. Remember, the smaller the width, the tighter the curl, and the bigger the width, the wider the curl. So first I take the end of the yarn and line about 1 inch flat onto the rod. Then I begin to wrap the yarn around the rod tightly. I make sure to push the yarn up to make sure there is no space in between and continue to wrap until the rod is completely covered. When I get to the end, I cut down about 4 inches and secure the yarn with a knot. After I've wrapped all my rods, I run them under hot water, making sure they're completely saturated. I squeeze the excess water off, then place them in a 250-degree oven on a baking sheet. Since every oven is different, I suggest you do a test run with one of your rods. If your yarn begins to melt too soon, you may need to turn your temperature down to 225 or 200 degrees. The goal is to get your yarn dry quickly without melting. I have 3 rods that have been dried and cooled out of the oven. Now I just untie the end of the yarn and unwind the yarn off the rod. When that's off, I cut the straight ends of the yarn off on both ends. Next, I fold the curled yarn in half twice and cut at the fold at the top and at the bottom. Then I fold in half a third time and cut at the fold. If you want your curls to be longer, you don't have to fold and cut as many times as I did, but this is the length I was going for. To attach the hair, I'll be using this hair crochet with the hook and latch. I purchased this at a beauty supply, but you can also find them at your local craft store as well. As you can see, I've already started the process and I love the way it's looking already. So to attach the hair, I first make sure the latch is pulled back. Then I push the hook and latch through the loop or underneath the stitch. I grab a strand of hair and fold it in half. I make a loop at the fold and place it onto the crochet hook. Then I close the latch, securing the hair strand, and pull it back through under the stitched loop. Once it's pulled through, I release the crochet hook. Then I open up the folded end of the hair strand and pull the other end of the hair through. I pull the end of the hair tight and secure the hair strand with a tight knot. And that's how I attach the hair. I'll continue to fill this up and I'll show you once it's finished. Here's the doll once the hair has been fully attached, and I love the way it turned out. Here's a view from the back and the side. Now the face and hair are complete, and you can see how I styled her hair a few ways in the pics coming up. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when there's a new upload. Also, there will be a part 3 in this series, which will be the last and final part, so be on the lookout for that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.